Hi, I'm Theo Smith, and I'm the award-winning co-author of the book Neurodiversity at Work. I'm also a recruiter by trade, and I'm a very enthusiastic advocate for neurodiversity, and specifically neurodiversity in the workplace. I have a child who's autistic and ADHD, and I also associate with those neurological traits. I came to this late in life. I didn't realise when I was a young person that I was being marginalised and system impacted just because of the way that my brain worked. I failed at school, I had lots of significant challenges when I was younger. I couldn't access the education system, and therefore I found entertainment and ways of enjoying my life outside of that system. It meant self-exclusion. It meant that I didn't achieve some of the things that perhaps I should have much earlier on in my life. And it's taken me many years to get to this place. And that is why I'm such a powerful advocate for neurodiversity. One, because of lived experience. One, because of the impact I see on my family. And also because I see that there's still too many barriers to individuals getting help, support, and ultimately being able to lean into their significant strengths and therefore achieve the things that they deserve in their lives. And that's really important to me. So what is neurodiversity, this incredible topic that we talk about? Well, neurodiversity is like biodiversity. We need variety and variation in the plants, in the trees. We need bees, right? Without bees, the world would literally be at significant risk. Bees are the great pollinators, and they do it without asking or without question. They fly around and they pollinate en masse. However, we have a problem. We have a reduction in the amount of bees, and that has an impact on the environment. Now, we could look at neurodiversity, neurological variety and variation in the way that our brains work, in the way that we think. Like thumbprints, we have billions of brain cells that are complex and unique to each one of us. We need that variety and variability in the planet, in the ecosystem, because we make different decisions. We put different priorities at the top of those decisions that we're making. Some of us will think the environment's very important. Others will focus on other aspects of our lives. This variety in the way that we think, the way that we process information, the way that we see the world, ensures that we have a robust and positive ecosystem that will be sustainable for humanity for as long as we can hope to be. So neurodiversity is in fact very much like biodiversity, and I truly believe they work hand in glove. But the reality is not everyone has been system impacted or marginalised just because of the way that they think. So when we talk about neurodiversity in that context, we're not talking about everybody. So neurodiversity is everybody and how unique and brilliant they are. What we're talking about is those people who've faced the barriers because of the way that their brain works, but not because their brain is broken or needs fixing. It's because the barriers are put in place by organisations, by education systems, by built environments. And therefore, we are unable to access certain things like learning and the workplace because of those barriers that ultimately we can remove. And when we talk about those neurological variations, we may consider ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Oh, disorder! Ouch! Deficit! But these are the medical terms like autism spectrum disorder and dyslexia and dyspraxia and dyscalculia and many other incredible ways that the brain may work and process information. Synesthesia, for example, aphantasia. Ooh, we're going a bit Disney. The reality is the brain is highly complex, and we use neurodiversity as a term that we can all identify and associate with, that we have brilliant, unique brains. But when we double down to somebody who may be ADHD or autistic, we often see that disproportionately they are negatively affected by the things that we as a human race put in place. So what happens then when somebody feels marginalised and system impacted and they realise that they don't fit into an environment that hasn't been built for them? They may do things like mask. Well, what is masking? Masking is when somebody hides the way they feel, the way that the environment is impacting them, or a system and process is impacting them. They mask it because they no longer want to be subjected to people treating them differently or negatively just because of that response. A wonderful example is in girls like my daughter, who may mask because she doesn't want people to know she's really struggling with her times tables. She doesn't want people in the classroom to know that she's struggling to access the information. So on the face of it, she may be very quiet and sat at the back of the classroom, but in reality, she is struggling and not explaining to people. And when that happens over a lifetime cycle, it builds on trauma and it builds on triggers that can happen at any point through that trauma across your life. And if you don't deal with these and you don't support individuals of being able to remove the mask and be their unique and incredible and wonderful selves by removing some of those barriers and some of the stigma, eventually that can end up in challenges with mental health and well-being. And ultimately, it means that somebody could fall off the edge of the cliff. Not because they're autistic or because they're ADHD or dyslexic, but in fact because of the barriers that have faced them, that have been put in front of them by others, and sometimes inadvertently they've put in front of themselves, right, that hurt them and that harm them. Sometimes I describe it as kryptonite. And that kryptonite means that individuals can't be their best selves. They can't lean into their strengths. They can't show their unique abilities, and we need to get better at removing that. Now, language plays a really important part in self-identification. And when we consider terms like neurodiversity is that we are all neurologically diverse and unique. However, there are many other terms that people identify with to show that they feel they may be marginalised or system impacted, or they identify as being ADHD or dyslexic or dyscalculic or Tourette's or autistic, or actually a combination of all of those, because in fact, if you're one, you're more likely to be another or more, like myself and my daughter. The reality is that language on that basis can become complex. But what I would say is take the lead of the person in front of you that you're talking to. The real objective here is to enable people who've been disabled through systems, processes, barriers that have been put in place that could be moved, or where adaptations or adjustments could be put in place that could allow them to really thrive within that environment. So neurodiversity is everybody. Let's not get too caught up in all the terminology and actually focus on the individual in front of us, because that's what really matters. Because most of us don't have all the labels, we don't have all the answers, we possibly couldn't access the label because we didn't have the money to go through private healthcare for assessment, or possibly we got fed up of the 3, 4, 5 years waiting lists that currently exist in certain areas of the world, or where there are no waiting lists because there is no access to that type of support. The reality is that people who need support today. And that's why neurodiversity is such a powerful concept and idea. We're all beautifully and wonderfully neurologically unique, but some of us have faced significant trauma that happened very early in our lives as young people in the school system and beyond, that may have included bullying, it may have included exclusion or self-exclusion, it may have included self-harm, drink, drugs, or many other factors that could impact on long-term mental health and well-being. But these are not things that should put a barrier in place to us ultimately succeeding in life. It's something that I've been able to do and something that I advocate for. So hope you're as excited by the concept of neurodiversity as I am, and let's start to remove some of those barriers by promoting the incredible positivity that exists within this concept of neurodiversity in the work and neurodiversity across the globe.